In the day's other news, President Trump faced new concerns and discontent in Republican ranks over the issue that launched the impeachment inquiry. That is after acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney acknowledged the president did tie military aid for Ukraine to an investigation of Democrats. Mulvaney later denied any quid pro quo. But today, Republican Congressman Francis Rooney of Florida said that Mulvaney cannot simply erase his initial comments, or as he put it, it's not an Etch-a-Sketch.
Whatever might have been gray and unclear before is certainly quite clear right now that the actions were related to getting some of the Ukraine to do some of these things.
Another prominent Republican, former Ohio Governor John Kasich, said today that he now supports impeachment. We'll talk to him later in the program. Boeing is facing new questions about whether it was upfront with federal safety regulators over the grounded 737 MAX aircraft. At issue are instant messages from a Boeing pilot who, in his words, lied unknowingly to officials about a new flight control system. That system is now linked with two crashes that killed 346 people. We'll examine this in full later in the program. In Lebanon, thousands of protesters turned out for a second day, angry over a proposed tax hike and general economic chaos. Crowds in Beirut faced off with police, demanding the government resign. Later, the police fired tear gas and water cannon as Prime Minister Saad al-Hariri appealed for reforms.
I personally gave myself a very short time for our partners in the government to give a clear and final answer that will convince those who are expressing their anger. All parties should make the decision to reform and to stop overspending and corruption.
Hariri said he was setting a deadline of 72 hours for his coalition partners to agree. More than 500,000 people marched in Barcelona, Spain today, demanding independence for Catalonia and freedom for jailed separatists. Vast crowds marched peacefully for the most part, but later a few hundred masked youth set trash containers on fire and threw rocks. Riot police fired back with rubber bullets. In eastern Afghanistan, a bomb exploded in a mosque during Friday prayers, killing at least 62 worshipers. Hospitals in Nangarhar province scrambled to treat the wounded, including children. It underscored a UN report that Afghan civilians are dying in record numbers. There was no immediate claim of responsibility for the bombing. Back in this country, the brother of the president of Honduras was convicted in New York on drug trafficking charges. Federal prosecutors said Juan Antonio Hernandez smuggled more than 200 tons of cocaine into the U.S. since 2010. His brother, Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez, was labeled a co-conspirator, but he was not charged. In Chicago, public school teachers walked picket lines for a second day. Schools stayed closed for more than 300,000 students in the country's third largest public school system. With more than 26,000 teachers on strike, union leaders reported some progress in negotiations. Mayor Lori Lightfoot said there needs to be more.
We put a fulsome, comprehensive offer on the table. And as I've said now for many weeks, they need to respond in kind with a comprehensive counteroffer. And we need to be at the table every single day, 7 days a week, at least 10 hours a day, until we get a deal done.
Lightfoot said that the school district has offered a 16% raise for teachers over 5 years, plus smaller class sizes. Tropical storm Nestor is threatening the southeastern U.S. after forming in the Gulf of Mexico today. It's expected to make landfall early tomorrow near Mexico Beach, Florida, a town nearly destroyed by Hurricane Michael a year ago. This new storm could bring high winds, but it also promises several inches of rain in a region suffering from drought. President Trump said today that he will nominate Dan Brouillette to be the next Secretary of Energy. He is now deputy to Secretary Rick Perry, who plans to leave the post by year's end. Perry said today that his departure is not related to the Ukraine impeachment investigation, but his department formally rejected House subpoenas for documents. And on Wall Street, stocks closed out the week on a down note. The Dow Jones Industrial Average lost 255 points to close at 26,770. The Nasdaq fell 67 points, and the S&P 500 slipped 11. Still to come on the NewsHour, security forces in Mexico clash with cartel gunmen, sending bystanders running for cover. Flight risk, new details on when Boeing employees knew about their plane's deadly flaw. A conversation with Republican John Kasich, who is now saying President Trump should be impeached. Mark Shields and David Brooks break down a busy week in political news and much more.
This is the PBS NewsHour from WETA Studios in Washington and in the West from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State University.